vidadhati purvam yo vai vedanscha prahinoti tasmai tam hadevamatma buddhi prakasham mumukshurvai sharanamaham prapadye. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Namo Brahmadibhyo Brahma Vidya Sampradaya Kartribhyo Vamshrishibhyo Mahatbhyo Namo Gurubhyaha Sarvopaplavarahita Prajnanaghana Pratyagartho Brahmaivahamasmi Brahmaivahamasmi. Vedantartha vibhasakaya gurave Shantaya sannyasine Nanavadi nagendra sanghapavaye Yogindra vandyaya cha Mohadvanta divakaraya Bhagavat pada vidham Bibhrate Tasmai bhashyakrute namostu satatam Purnaya bodhatmane. To have desires, ambitions, and wishes is not what we can say is unnatural, because every desire arises on its own accord. It is not something which is pre-planned and hence it keeps coming. But then, when the life of the person, the philosophy of a person's life is only meant for fulfillment of desires, and desires mainly in terms of appeasement of the senses and appeasement of the ego, when this remains as the single focus of any person, then that life becomes self-centered, becomes extremely selfish. And as a result, the person's actions then lead himself into a quagmire, in an abyss of dark ignorance. That the person now is caught in inexhaustible sequence of miseries. Not only it ends at that, but now such a person even becomes a source of misery even for the world. Therefore, when the desires are unbridled, the life of such a person is not only a liability to himself, but also he puts the entire world around him in danger. Therefore, we require some guidelines which can keep our ambitions, or which can help us fulfill our desires, fulfill our ambitions in a legitimate way. And this then is called as the life of dharma, a righteous life. We have seen up to this point. The entire background in which this philosophy, this knowledge is placed is very unique to Vyasa's, Bhagavan Veda Vyasa's, um, what do they call? Not expertise, but his genius. Because we find this knowledge being imparted right in middle of a battlefield. And this battle now, every battle, every war is fought with by people who have desires to rule and have ambitions to have power, etc. And we do not say that it is totally absolutely wrong, because this is how human nature is. But wherever greed, lust, anger, egoism, vanity, these are the factors for which to satiate that, if a person wants power, money, etc., then such a person is not only wasting his life, but he becomes a source of nuisance to everyone. Here we find now just that little story, because this background, it gives us an idea of of an appropriate um, uh, sound surrounding for the knowledge to be imparted. So Dhritarashtra, the blind king, totally infatuated by the love for his sons and by his ambition to 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 rule, to stay as the emperor, now has led to this situation. And so Dhritarashtra now plans everything, and in a very cunning way, because he knows that the Pandavas have a very acute awareness of righteousness. These are not the people who will fling the viveka, the discrimination, to the wind and act only as led by their ego and just pleasure seeking activities. Dhritarashtra knows that these are people who are sensitive and who truly want to avoid any kind of bloodshed. And he also is aware, because he has seen Pandavas raise a parallel, a twin kingdom to Hastinapur, which was Indraprastha. So in every which way, the Pandavas have proved themselves to be capable of taking the responsibility of ruling, of giving of welfare of bringing welfare to their subjects, people. Now, in spite of this, knowing well, being rightfully the heirs of that kingdom, yet Dhritarashtra refuses to acknowledge them or to give them what they truly deserve righteously, just but because of his love for his sons and his own personal ambition too. Now, Dhritarashtra, on the eve of the battle, has a very cunning plot, and he sends Sanjaya, his own messenger. Sanjaya, now this is the plight of all good people who have to work for masters who are unrighteous, and who are blind in, intellectually. Their discrimination is in coma. For such people, Sanjaya is also one such example, and several people are crushed who were truly great in their character over here just because of their association with Dhritraashtra, including Bhishma and Drona. All of them have suffered only because of the stubborn blind king. Now, Dhritarashtra sends Sanjaya with an advice that Pandavas, you people, you know how my sons are. They are not going, Duryodhana, etc. They are not going to listen to me, but at least you people will respect elders and my words. So you should not fight this battle. You should go back. Now, if this was the advice that Dhritarashtra had to really give, he could have given it even to his sons even before. But never did Dhritarashtra discourage his sons from doing anything that was wrong since the beginning. And even after making the decision of fighting the battle, and that decision was made in the Kaurava court, it was not from the Pandava. So we have to, even over here on right at the battlefield too, the horns and the trumpets and the conches were blown, indicating, signaling the beginning of the battle. Announcing the battle was done by the Kaurava army first. So the offenders themselves were pretending to be the ones who were offended. If Dhritarashtra truly had to give any kind of advice, he could have at least protested once, or he could have at least pleaded with Duryodhana not to wage any battle, not to fight, not to do any kind of bloodshed. But Dhritarashtra is a pretentious king, and he therefore plants this idea into Arjuna's heart. Through Sanjaya, now simply has to carry this message, because it is the message from the king, and it has to go to the Pandavas, because he is deployed by the king to do that job. So Sanjaya goes and says that I need to talk to the Pandavas in private. But only one thing which stood in the Pandavas' interest and their benefit was that all the Pandavas unanimously said that whatever is the message that the king wants to send, we will definitely respect and hear that. But just not the Pandavas, even Sri Krishna will also be there in that council. Dhritarashtra specifically had said only Pandavas, and he did not mention that don't allow Sri Krishna, but that is what was meant, because he knew that Sri Krishna was not going to leave the Pandavas in any situation all alone. And therefore, he had made sure in giving the instructions saying that Pandavas alone should be there, but the Pandavas said that we will hear, but we need Shri Krishna also with us. So now in presence of Shri Krishna, the message that was given by Dhritarashtra was already was given to the Pandavas, and Pandavas then said, now we are helpless. Had this to be done, it could have been done much before, and it should have been told to Duryodhana too. In fact, Dhritarashtra, if you see what Dhritarashtra says that if nothing, please go back, don't even demand anything, don't ask for anything, forget all the insult done to Draupadi, and so on and so forth. And then he advises them to live a life of penury and beggary. He says that if nothing happens, at least you should go and start begging. and live as refugees in Dwaraka, which was the kingdom of Sri Krishna. Now, with all this was said, which in fact is very not only just insulting but was also discouraging, knowing well that this advice will not be followed. Now look at this. This is what is the cunning, plotting, scheming person does. Knowing well that it will not be followed, but also knows that this message will go and hit Arjuna somewhere. And Arjuna is the ace warrior of the Pandava army. Arjuna, even before, had displayed his prowess. Single-handedly, he had defeated all the Kauravas, including Karna and Bhishma, together. He had done that on an occasion and on an earlier occasion, without going into that kind of a history where he does, why did that happen, so on and so forth. But all that is important for us to know that it was already done. So Arjuna is a person with that kind of a prowess, an ace warrior who has already proven that he alone was sufficient enough to handle the entire Kaurava clan. Now he knows that it will go and this poison will slowly work on Arjuna. As Arjuna comes on the battlefield, Arjuna loses his heart, and Arjuna repeats exactly the same words of Dhritraashtra as brought by Sanjaya in the message. This was the despair of Arjuna. So Arjuna's despair, which has come, was already planted by Dhritarashtra. And Dhritarashtra knows that when the time comes, my words will keep ringing in Arjuna's ears, thus making him disabled, making him handicapped, making him incapable, killing his enthusiasm and interest in killing him, killing his what do they call, his willingness. Dhritarashtra does that. But now you will notice, all of us will notice, that the very opening stanza of Bhagavad Gita is the words which are spoken in the beginning. Bhagavad Gita opens with the dialogue with a question from Dhritarashtra. And why is this? Because Dhritarashtra is asking Sanjaya. Sanjaya was not his messenger, but Sanjaya was blessed by Bhagwan Veda Vyasa, sage Vyasa, that sitting right in the palace next to Dhritarashtra, Sanjaya will be able to see all the events happening on the battlefield. So that yogic power, the Shakti, to see, not to visualize, but to actually see all the events happening on the battlefield, this power was given by sage Vyasa to Sanjaya. And only for the reason that Sanjaya would relate it all to Dhritarashtra. And thus, when Dhritarashtra was being told of all the events that were taking place on the battlefield, Dhritarashtra knew that it was the 10th day of the battle. The battle took place for 18 days, and we are on the 10th day. On the 10th day of the battle, the grandsire of the Kaurava clan, on whose prowess the Kauravas relied for their victory, is Bhishmacharya. Bhishma. And Bhishma falls on the battlefield, struck by the arrows of Arjuna. That was the time when Dhritraashtra really went into a shock. And Dhritraashtra asks, as what has happened on the battlefield? What is happening on the battlefield? Because he knew that the seed that he had planted, the poisonous seed that he has planted in Arjuna's ears, will not allow Arjuna to ever fight a duel or even hurt Bhishma. But today we find that Abhishma not only had fallen, but he had fallen fight with in a duel with Arjuna. This shocks Dhritarashtra, and therefore Dhritarashtra now asks, O Sanjaya, what have my sons and Pandu's sons done on the battlefield? What have they done on the battlefield? So this question comes on the 10th day. Bhagavad Gita was delivered by Sri Krishna on the very first day. So now the Bhagavad Gita that we have is a flashback from the 10th day going to the first day. And therefore now Sanjaya now goes back and sees what happens, what had happened, and then relates this entire dialogue between Shri Krishna and Arjuna to Dhritarashtra. Now, another thing that you will notice is that Bhagavad Gita, even in the Gita Dhyanam shlokas, has been called as Amritam. Advaita Amritavarshinim Gita Amritam Mahat. You remember? It has been called as Amritam. Amritam means the nectar of immortality, which is in the heaven, in the Svargaloka, guarded by the Devas, by the gods in the heaven. They guard it. And anybody who sips it, then it gives her, it makes one free from the death. And therefore, though all those who are the denizens of Svargalok, of the heaven, live over there, but nobody dies. And when their tenure comes to an end, when the duration of their stay in the heaven comes to an end, they do not die, but they descend down to the mortal worlds to be born again as humans, so that they can perform the dharma and go back to the heaven. So there is no death. And how is that death avoided? Because they have sipped the Amritam. Now over here, the poison which was fed by Dhritarashtra to Arjuna, what was its anti-venom? What was it? What had cured Arjuna of this poison? And that is the Gita Amritam. So Sanjaya now says that, oh blind king, though you had plotted and fed this venom, poison to Arjuna, but there was Shri Krishna, whose words now were the nectar to cure the poison which you had fed. And hence we find Dhritarashtra's question in the beginning, and that question is cast to Sanjaya, asked to Sanjaya, because Sanjaya is supposed to give him the report of the events in the battlefield. From the first day to the 10th day, Dhritarashtra had the hope that the Pandavas will be defeated, because the Kaurava army was led by Bhishma, and Bhishma falls, bringing a big crack in Dhritarashtra's hope. And hence the question. Now, hey, you have all known this background, the history of, abridged, abridged history. Those who are interested in wanting to find out about all should go through Mahabharata. It is said about Mahabharata that a person who reads Mahabharata will not remain a fool. A person may begin as a fool, but when he comes, the wisdom will be born in him. The wisdom of dharma and the wisdom of moksha. How to deal with this world, and also how, by what means and what way, by understanding what, one will bring the end to misery altogether. Thus, the person's empirical life will be fruitful, and even her spiritual endeavor will also be fructified as a result of this reading the Mahabharata. Mahabharata is the name of the book. Generally, in Indian common parlance, people say Mahabharata means only the war. Mahabharata is not a war. It begins from this entire history. In fact, Mahabharata is called as the Itihas of the ancient India. Now, up to here, we have the background of the history, the story. We can say it is an akhyayika. An akhyayika is given so that our entry into passage into the knowledge can become easy. Just as Nachiketa and Yama, the dialogue over there, that entire patch of the story, how Nachiketa watches his father in a subtle deception, doing self-deception as well. And then Nachiketa goes to Yama, the Lord of Death, and so on and so forth. It is an akhyayika. Or in Kenopanishad, we come across the akhyayika of Yakshobakhyana, that there is a Yaksha, one of the demigods or a celestial being that appears in front of the gods of the heaven, who have won, who are celebrating their victory over the demons, and he are intoxicated with vanity and ego. Over there, then this Yaksha, which is then Paramatma himself, appears, and then that is the story. It is made, it is given so that we are able to have, it develops our interest in the knowledge. Now, over here, these 700 verses of Bhagavad Gita is the main body. We are not telling Bhagavad Gita so that we can justify the history or anything. For us is to understand that what is the timeless knowledge. It was applicable and it was pertinent even during that time, even if by the standards of the modern historians, they may say that Mahabharata is somewhere 5,000 years old at least. We would go even more. We would say it's even more in the orthodox systems of calculating the time. But whatever that knowledge is applicable, is important, was important then, is important today, and will be as applicable and pertinent even tomorrow. even 1,000 years hence. And therefore, this is knowledge which is not bound by time. It is not bound by time. So now we will have to keep the history surrounding the imparting Bhagavad Gita in one place. It may help us approach the knowledge, but this knowledge by itself is something that is timeless. How and why? Let us go through this little introduction given to us by one of the great teachers in the tradition. His name was Madhusudana Saraswati, his contemporary of Akbar, and therefore 16th, 17th century, and a great scholar, a great teacher, whose work is what do they call, iconic in the tradition of Vedanta. I'm going to take you through this a little exercise, so that what comes down through the passage of Gita then will be easily understood and also be assimilated. Okay, here. Sahetukasya samsarasya atyanto paramatmakam param nishreyasam Gita shastrasya uktam prayojanam. Even before we undertake the study of any work, we require to see the Anubandha Chatushtaya. Anubandha Chatushtaya means those four factors. Now, they are enumerated as four. So these are few factors which are responsible for a person to study, to analyze, to think about, to study any work. Okay, to study any work, any book, we require these four factors. And those factors, this Anubandha is here. You have to know what is the subject matter. Basically, when you enter into a bookstore, you also go to that section of the books of your interest. So you look for, what do they call those, the display, that this is mystery, and this is biographies, and this is autobiographies, and this is the computer books, and these are the management books, and these are the self-help books, so on and so forth. Now you choose the category to go to that section. Why? Because the subject matter is there. So we first look at the subject matter, and this is called as Vishaya. Vishaya means the subject matter of the book. What is the subject matter of Bhagavad Gita? Then, why do I want? What is it that I want is your prayojanam? And what is it that will be delivered by me understanding that subject matter is then the prayojanam of the book. Okay. And when these two match, when your prayojanam means purpose, that purpose, your purpose matches with the purpose for which that book is written or that subject is explained, now you know that this is the subject matter, it will fulfill this purpose. Then this becomes the second point of reference, which will determine a person wanting to study something. So one is Vishaya, the next is Prayojanam, the third one is Adhikari. Adhikari, a person who is qualified. Just because one desires does not make him qualified. Look at that. I may desire that I want a limousine, or some other car, a Ferrari. I want a Ferrari. I want to drive Ferrari on the streets of Rishikesh here. The desire. One has a desire, but that does not mean just having the desire makes me qualified. Qualification, desire is one factor. Desire is one factor, but there are other factors which makes a person qualified, so that when a qualified person undertakes the study, understands the subject matter, then only that prayojanam, that purpose will be fulfilled. A person who is not qualified may do it, but that the purpose for which that book has been written will not be fulfilled. Okay, several people may have the purpose, oh, why do you want to study Bhagavad Gita? So that I can quote it left, right, and center, and impress others. No, is this the purpose? That it is a text, so that memorizing which one will be able to impress the people? Is it meant for so that I will be able to quote nice jokes, or I will become an eloquent speaker? Hey, is this the reason for which? Is this the purpose? So now our purpose may not match with the purpose, and therefore even the purpose is important. So also the adhikari, who is qualified, is also important. And then finally, what is this sambandha? By my studying the book, what is or what is the sambandha? What is the relationship? What is the correlation with the book, with the subject matter, with the one who is studying with the subject matter? So these are the various factors. In fact, these are the four factors. So Vishaya, Prayojana, Adhikari, and Sambandha. When these four factors are clearly drawn in front of us, we will be able to have a sustained interest in this study. This is not by fluke. This is not going to be simply by just as a fad. But this means that because we do certain things, or it could be just casual curiosity. It can be a casual curiosity. And if it is a casual curiosity, the person may feel tired, and eventually he may even give up. At this point, I remember a very interesting incident from Lokmanya Tilak's life. Here. From Lokmanya Tilak's life. During the freedom struggle of India, where India struggled to get freedom from the British colonization, then the Lokmanya Tilak, this great person, was called as the father of the Indian unrest. Till then, the Indian population was in the slumber, and he was he brought the awakening to the Indian masses. So he is called as the father of Indian unrest. They were great people in their character, in their actions, in every which way. So wherever Lokmanya Tilak went and spoke, that would inspire hundreds of people. And they were all ready to take instructions from Lokmanya Tilak and join the freedom struggle, wanting to become revolutionaries. Now, Lokmanya Tilak had kept one condition. He said, so hundreds of those young men and women would come and say that, sir, we want to join you, we want to join. And so he would say, come to me after 1 week. And if 100 people had come, next week, only 50 people would come. Then he would still say that come next week. By then, only 10 people are coming. And then he would say, and these were the people who were ready to sign in their own blood, okay, that we are ready to sacrifice our lives. But within 3 weeks, all their enthusiasm, interest just waned away. Okay, hey, withered away like that. Why does this happen? So an initial, if it is something that is initiated, your interest is initiated by somebody else, which means it is an an imported enthusiasm. If the teacher has to push you, come on, I want to encourage you to study. You should know Bhagavad Gita. And just because somebody is saying and the person feels interested, then it is a factor from outside which is influencing you. And we are saying the factor which is responsible for sustained interest is a different factor. And that's why we have to say that that factor through which a sustained interest will be there in order to pursue this study is over here identified in this framework of Anubandha Chatushtaya. Chatushtaya means a quadruplet. What quadruplet is the right word? 4 things, 4-fold. Okay. Somebody who knows English should tell me. Like how we have pentad, and then hexad, like that. What is meant? What is the word for 4 factors, 4-fold things together? Anybody? You can message it. Anyway, so friends, here we have these 4 things and they need to be spelled out in the very beginning. So now let us look at the way of how it is brought to us. Sahetukasya samsarasya atyanto paramatmakam param nishreyasam gita shastrasya uktam prayojanam. So, what is the subject matter of Gita? Is nishreyasam, is that what is highest attainment. Highest attainment, we all want that what is best in life, and on the top of the world, and other people may desire and want to have small little things, but I want to be on the top, and I should be head or shoulders to rest of them. No, sir. Param nishreyasam also means that it is not only highest, it is ultimate, and it is in fact the real good of that can be desired. That can be desired. Param nishreyasam. And that nishreyasam means, in other words, it means moksha. What is moksha? Moksha, now, very lengthy discussions I do not want to entertain. But over here, moksha means dukkhasya atyantiko nivrittihi parama sukhasya avaptihi. This is a common definition that every school of philosophy will agree on. Okay, sorry. Param nishreyasam would mean dukkhasya atyantika nivritti. Dukkhasya nivritti means, removal of misery, removal of dukkha, getting rid of dukkha. And you have some dukkha like a headache or a toothache, but who wants it? So we are all waiting to be free from that, for which would you require Bhagavad Gita? Then Bhagavad Gita is not going to remove my headache, is not going to cure my toothache. Then how do you say that Bhagavad Gita is going to remove dukkham? So here we say that freedom from dukkham is of two kinds. One is temporary and one which is absolute. One which is relative, one which is absolute, one which is temporary, one which is permanent. Total annihilation, total removal of misery, which means that no, four facts. I will not remember the others. No, I want an English word for the four things, fourfold things together. Like if it is a collection, quartet. Okay, thank you, Hemaji. Quartet, fourfold things, quartet. Thank you. All right. Atyantika nivratti means total, complete annihilation. Now, every person truly desires this, which is absolute, total annihilation of dukkham, not relative. Relative annihilation, relative or temporary dukkha nivritti is also desired. But what is truly, ultimately desired is this. And parama-sukhasya prapti also means where the sukham or the joy is then not limited by time, space, or objects or any conditions. Limited by time, space, and objects would mean that I'm happy on Monday, but would you say that it would be okay for me to be unhappy and miserable and sad on Tuesday? And therefore, though I desire to be happy on Monday, but I also desire to be happy on all the rest of the 6 days. So here we truly desire what is nishreyasam. We desire nishreyasam, but is buying new cars and becoming an emperor or a prime minister or marrying a particular girl, is that going to fulfill this purpose? So we do not know. No, for one thing for sure is that, well, I may desire marrying this girl, having a car, having a bigger house, having more money, but it definitely does not become the means to param nishreyasam. With this, we also do not know and understand, though this is what is ultimately truly desired by me, but what is it that is going to take me to this param nishreyasam, to this moksha? This is not known to me, though this is what I want. And so here we say, this is the subject matter of Gita. Okay. सहेतुकस्य संसारस्य अत्यंत उपरमात्मकं परम निश्रेयसं गीता शास्त्रस्य उत्तम प्रयोजनम. So what is now by just giving us that this is, moksha is the prayojanam, and how that moksha will be attained is by knowing something. By knowing something. What is it that needs to be known? Being wants is waiting to be known means something presently is under the shroud of ignorance. It is not known. So what does Bhagavad Gita do? is to remove that shroud, the veil, the curtain, the cover. Removes the ignorance. So now here we have what is the prayojanam? Moksha is the prayojanam, and by knowing what, just over here, by knowing Brahman, by knowing this self in the sense, by knowing that the self is Purnam, is complete. Another point to be noted over here is that we all know Parichit. We all know, we are all acquainted with what dukkham is. We need not be told that, when you cry and then when the heart is sinking, this is called dukkham and all. Well, but really speaking, what exactly is dukkham? What exactly is dukkham? Because promises are made in every theology, every philosophy, everywhere, as this is going to help you overcome dukkham. But our question is, yes, that is okay. That is your promise with all your goodness. With due respect to you, sir, please tell us what exactly is dukkham. I'm having it ever since I'm born, or ever since that I have arrived in this world. But please tell me, what is this dukkham? Because without knowing, how are you going to even eradicate it? In order for it to be eradicated, you really need to know what exactly is that, because otherwise you would be eradicating something else. And so the problem still remains over there, though sincerely you have strived to remove the problem, but unfortunately you really did not know what to eradicate. So you eradicated the wrong thing. What is this dukkham? So over here we are going to say in short that, the sense of incompleteness which haunts every person, the sense of incompleteness, the sense of being dissatisfied, unfulfilled, incomplete, imperfection. This is what keeps on haunting. Though one may have money and plenty of money, ifrat, countless, yet there can be something that will bother the person. There is bound to be something that will bother him. One may be on the top of the power, but he still has insecurity that somebody else should not topple me down. That insecurity gnaws upon even the most powerful men in the world. I don't know how it is, but it is said when Stalin came to power, in his first speech, he was saying that this were the wrong things that Lenin did, so on and so forth. Then there was a voice from the audience, and it said, "Why did you not say all this when Lenin was still alive?" The question is right. Why did you not say? Stalin stood silent, and there was a pin drop silence with that question. Stalin asked, "Who is it that has asked this question? Can the person raise his hand or stand up?" And nobody stood up. Nobody stood up. Stalin said, "I was exactly in the same position as you were then." It was a personless voice. There was no person to that voice. Even people with most powerful, but yet they manage to have him topple down. And it is very often that people who are very close become the are the contenders to power. So it is even the most powerful people are also not free from that insecurity. In fact, they are eaten by that, gnawed from inside by their insecurity. So now, with all the means at your disposal, the person still will have something to feel dissatisfied with. And that is why even that promise of going to the heaven and living in the heaven with everything that is best forever is also a very boring proposal, because it is a proposal to keep making a promise that, it is a perfect device for one to die of boredom. No, if something is best, which means it is one of its own kind. The best wine, the best dance, the best music, there cannot be many bestest. Best will always be only one. We say he's one of my best friends. One of my best friends is, in fact, is wrong. Best means that it is going to be one. It is superlative. If going to the heaven is going to serve you best of wine, which means no other wine, because it is best, only one. Best of dance, only one. Best of music, only one. Best fruits, only one. And now that is the only menu and the only music that one has to hear and the only dance that one has to watch all the time, eternally. Now they say that there is eternal fire and there is this eternal best. Both of them are equally scary proposals. Because best day and night, you're going to eat the same thing, drink the same wine, and watch the same dance and music. It is definitely a device to kill you with boredom. And it is eternal, so one cannot even then escape from there. Well then, here we are saying, though there are these various proposals from various theological backgrounds to end the misery, what exactly do you mean to say is misery? So there is going to be the sense of dissatisfaction, unfulfillment, ever chasing one, like a shadow. This sense of incompleteness, this sense of unfulfillment, this sense of limitedness is to come. How will it go away? By eradicating when the sense of incompleteness, which is centered on the self, that I am incomplete, I am dissatisfied, when this goes, and therefore in discovering that this Atma is complete, not conditioned, not limited by time, space, and object, or by any other attributes or any other conditions, in knowing that what is complete, Purnam, one is released from dukkham and released from the dukkham forever. So we are not going to say that going to the heaven or attaining a particular state of mind is released from dukkham, but in knowing. Therefore, this knowledge over here is what puts an end to dukkham, knowing that what is complete, which is not in the grip of time, space. How would thought know, grab that which is infinite? That's another issue, and we will deal with it when we are at that point. But presently, by knowing that what is complete, the sense of incompleteness which is to come will be completely eradicated. So not by going to the heaven, because over here also we are telling you that going to the heaven is a joyful thing, and go Go to the heaven. If those who are interested, go watch dances and have your, drink and comfortable, pleasurable life, whatever. But there also it is not complete eradication. So now those who, therefore, what is param nishreyasam? That nishreyasam means atyantika uparatihi, atyantika nivrittihi. Dukkhasya atyantika nivritti, paramasukhasya praptihi is nishreyasam. And so what is the vishaya? What is the subject matter? The subject matter is over here the knowing the completeness of the self. What is the subject matter? To be known, completeness of the self. Presently, not that you do not know you are, I am, is the knowledge that everybody is born with, because it is Swayam Siddha. Swayam Siddha means self-illuminous. Self-evident. Ahamasmi, I am. This is self-evident. It does not require anybody's endorsement. Ahamasmi, I am. It is not a knowledge that one concludes with inference. Since I can see, I am. I am able to see because I am. So there, then this part that I am is there, but not knowing that this I is Purnam, is complete, which means free from the conditions. And by this I, we understand the ego, the structure created by thought. But there is much more. In fact, the I that seems to be caught in the thought structure, in a psychological structure, is the ego. And that what is truly the self is much way beyond every thought, every structure created by the thought. We will come to it. But over here, knowing that this Atma is Brahman, is the means. And so what is the subject matter? Atma is Brahman, is the subject matter over here. This is the subject matter, by knowing which, what is the purpose that is attained? Moksha is accomplished. And then who is the adhikari? Who is a person who is qualified for this knowledge? If it is knowledge, anybody can understand. Hey, anybody can understand is not the thing. Just because one has heard does not mean one has understood. Understanding is altogether a different matter. Hearing is one, and understanding is still different. It is a cognition. So now, knowing something directly, that knowledge which is not infested with doubts and contradictions, then is the knowledge. And then with this knowledge, purpose is attained. So the person who will be able to understand, who is the person who is capable of understanding this, is called as the adhikari. And then finally, we have sambandha. How will this knowledge be delivered to me by Bhagavad Gita? Because Bhagavad Gita is that book in which this is delivered, this knowledge is delivered. So this knowledge is pratipadya vishaya, Bhagavad Gita is pratipadaka. Okay, so there is pratipadya, pratipadaka sambandha, so etc. So here we have these fourfold things that are drawn in front of us. Now, if we are going to verify, this is the subject matter, this is the purpose, this is the adhikari, and is this going to match with what I want? then if this is what is wanted by me, then I should make myself qualified for it, so that this knowledge can be had by me and the purpose can be attained. And for this knowledge to be had, then the study of Bhagavad Gita, because it is pratipadya pratipadak sambandha with the book. Here we come. Therefore, now when a person is able to verify against these standards, these parameters, then then one will definitely have sustained interest. So it is not by fluke. Spirituality, therefore, is not something that is a matter of freak people. Or it is luck by chance. It is very much for those who have understood this fourfold nirnaya, anubandha chatushtaya. So now over here he says, Sahetukas, we have gone beyond 10 minutes. I didn't notice. So this is, we will go through this a little exercise before. So now you have a good idea about what that Dhritraashtra's question. Why does Bhagavad Gita begin with a dialogue from Dhritraashtra? Then we are going to come to a little introduction to Bhagavad Gita. This is the Upodghata, which will make our entry into the subject matter little easy. So let's meet next to discuss this little further. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnaat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Avashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you all.